Hello, lovelies. Welcome back to another episode of Wedding Wednesday Q&A where we answer your wedding questions. And we are going to get right to it. Today's question is from Anaya. I hope I'm saying that right. Probably butchered that a little bit. It's Anaya. Anyways, the question is how to ask your guests politely for cash gifts. Hey, Anaya, I hear you. I get you. I totally understand. And here's our take on this. So, I want to start by saying that every couple is different. And although some would like to set up a registry, some probably just want cash gifts instead. There's really nothing wrong with that. And every situation is different. It's all about your preference. If you prefer cash gifts only at your wedding, there are ways to tell your guests without sounding so tacky or demanding. Like, obviously, we don't want to say, hey, cash only, that sign on the door, cash only, please. Obviously, we're not doing anything like that, but the world now is so advanced that you can receive cash without physically receiving it. So it doesn't necessarily mean that they just have to come to your wedding with like a bunch of cash, or you have to hold on to that cash for the whole wedding. There are cash registries like Honey Fund, which we're going to link below. Registries have now evolved that they're able to handle cash gifts as well. Although guests should indeed be able to choose what they want to give you, the reality is you also want to ensure that what they give you is not being unused or returned, especially for physical gifts and like products. This is why communicating to your guests that you prefer cash instead of physical goods will enable your guests to gift or contribute in a way where the gift itself will be put to actual use. Now, I'm going to get into a little sensitive topic here. There are some talks on how it is awkward and it's just so weird that there is a cash preference on the invitation or even the couple speaking about only cash gifts and that's just what they want. Truly, it can get a bit awkward. But this question then brings up, well, who did you invite to your wedding, right? If the people that you have invited know you and your partner quite well, I'm pretty sure, just like with anything, if the people that you invited in your wedding know you and your partner quite well, they would understand. Just imagine being in a safe place where they know that you just moved in together. They just would know and they would want to give you the best gift possible for your situation. So it's not just randomly buying or putting stuff on a registry. Of course, it's we need cash. Everybody knows that. Cash is king. Why not? To answer your question, how to ask your guests politely, here's the answer. There are many actually different ways that you can do that. If you prefer, number one, you can include that note in your wedding invitation. So that can be both printed or maybe on your website, where there is an actual link in where it leads them to a cash registry like Honey Fund, like what we mentioned earlier, where you can easily set it up so the guests don't have to necessarily send the cash and bring it to them on the wedding day. I mean, I'm sure all of us can relate that on the day of someone's wedding, we're a wedding guest, we would go to the bank, take out money, probably last minute buy a card, drop by Walmart or wherever dollar store, wherever you get your wedding cards. Get that, write the note, put the cash in, and carry that envelope and hold on to it with your dear life because you don't want to lose it. And I have been there, and I don't want to carry a big purse to fit that envelope sometimes. And I don't just want to hold that envelope, especially maybe I go to the bathroom and I put it somewhere and I forgot about it, right? So this actually helps with that your guests can click a link and send that gift right away, even at that moment that they RSVP. So there are many options that you can do, and this is one of them. Now, second point, not everyone is a big fan of putting the cash registry link on the invitation, and respectively, I understand. Obviously, you don't want that printed and, they're typing on it letter per letter and then they get to the website. So like what I mentioned earlier, instead of doing that, put your wedding website on the invitation instead. It's easier to track it, say John and Jane Smith wedding.com. That's just much more straightforward to go to. and it's not right away, this is where you're going to give us your cash, right? Like it's not like an upfront type of thing. So on the website, you can include your wedding details, of course, dress code, parking, all the other things that you need to do. And then in there as well, embedded, embedded or linked out is the cash registry. So that will help them get that gift for you. Another thing to add is it might be great to put a note or just like a little backstory as to why cash is needed. Obviously, this is not mandatory. This is not a requirement. But what you can do is you can put like, cash registry, and then underneath maybe a home fund or a honeymoon fund or a starting a family fund or anything that will just people will just understand, oh, this is where it's going. Like the money is going somewhere, right? Obviously, sometimes it's not always implied, but it's always understood that the money is going to go to paying the wedding and your plate. Like that's sometimes, well, not sometimes, but mostly your gift is to cover your plate. So anything else on top of that, say you assume that your plate is $80, say for example, you're giving out 150, then that excess is really where they're going to take the gift from, if you know what I mean. Fourth point, going back to what I said earlier, where who are the people that you invited? Because usually a lot of these things are word of mouth, right? Like, the auntie and the uncles are going to talk to the other aunties and uncles and the cousins and the coworkers and the friends. It's like unspoken, but everybody kind of understood, right? And if you've gone to other weddings, which I would have assumed that you have already, if you've given them cash, it's most likely that they're going to give you the cash back. So that's, from my experience, this is like a money going around, right? You give them the gift. The next time you get married or somebody else get married, they get the gift, and this money goes around, but it's important to have it and it's important to give it. Fifth point is if you can add a note, if someone gets through that registry and you get notified that, hey, you got a gift and this and that, send a personal note back to those people that have already sent that gift. It just makes it more personal, and it's not like a machine, like just ordering something online and leaving it. I mean, even actually ordering something online, you will still be able to receive something and say, thank you for your order, for processing it, blah, blah, blah. And so it's just the same thing with this. If you have a cash registry, you might want to say thank you back and personalize it and really appreciate the people that have contributed to that cash registry. Fifth point. Are we the fifth? 1, 2, 3, 4, fifth? Oh, maybe sixth. Anyways, next point. I have bullets instead of numbers, and maybe I should do numbers next time instead of bullets so I know where I'm at. But next point will be you have to anticipate that you will still most likely receive envelopes of cash on your wedding day. So just because you said, go to my cash registry and do this here, doesn't necessarily mean that some people won't show up with cash in hand or like in the envelope, obviously. But always remember that, especially for the older generation, and some people are just more secure that they give you the cash in person. That's just their way of showing, I guess, appreciation and love. And so we just have to give them that as well, and we respect that. But for the modern kids, I don't want to label millennials or Gen Z or anything like that. But for the kids who understand, for the guests who understand that, everything is digital nowadays, I could literally give you a gift and like not even worry about that on the wedding day and not run to the bank, write a card last minute and just like sign it and then drop it in the card box. But I've already done that. So that's already off my checklist, and I can just come to the wedding and just have fun and celebrate with you. Know the difference between the age groups and the comfort level of your guests, and understand that just because you said sign up for cash registry online, send the gifts through that, doesn't necessarily mean that people won't come with cash and gifts. Which gets me to my next point, where there are still some people that would still want to give you products, unfortunately. And fortunately, I'd say, actually, it's just their way. Again, it depends on your culture and tradition, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they have not given the cash. A lot of people have already given the cash and would still want to give you the product. And so I think we just have to be open to that. Of course, you can be a little frustrated, but that's their way as well of showing how they appreciate you. And so let's just sit back a little bit and let that go. You got the cash. And now you have some extra products. It's up to you what to do with it. But at that time, just try and really open up a little bit and appreciate that. Even if deep inside you're probably annoyed because you have to now pack that and know where to put it and you don't want to lose it. Just give some grace to other people as well. But I do agree that cash is always king. Also, I was like, also, I want to point out that sometimes I know you said cash on the envelope or everywhere, and sometimes people will come with a check. I remember I told you some people run to the bank, take out cash. Well, some people just like rip out that check, write your name, put the amount, and put it in the envelope, and that's it. And that's also really fair. But what I would want to remind you is that prior to the wedding, it's best that you and your partner open up a joint account with both your names on it. Because what happens is that you just don't know what's going to be on that check. Maybe they put like both your names on it, but now both your names are on it. You probably can't deposit it with just one person's account, right? Or it's the other person or the other way around. Anyways, having an account, like a joint account with both your names on it is so much better because whatever checks you'll receive on that day can be easily deposited with no problems. Also, which gets me to my next point. My gosh, I have so many points today. Point. It's also important that on your wedding invitation, you put the name, your full name, you and your partner's full name, as real as it gets. So I know sometimes, we might put the nickname or like a shorter version so that people know you with this name instead of the other name. But it's important that you put your real name on it because they're probably going to reference that invitation when they write their check, right? So if you put a nickname, they're probably not going to take it at the bank because it's not really your name that matches the account. So that's important too. Don't forget that. I mean, I feel like everybody puts their real name on the invitation anyways, but you just never know. It's just good to point out. And my last point for today is the cash handling. Obviously, if some people show up with cash on hand and checks, envelopes, you have to put it somewhere and secure it. So let's not forget that the handling of that, which usually is in a form of a secured card box, will be important. So what we usually say is that having someone guard, quote unquote, like not really guard and just like hug it, but just like stand there and make sure that no envelopes are like overflowing or there's enough space for the next envelopes to be put in because there are different type of card boxes. And so remember also that the size of your card box has to be in proportion with the number of guests you have, unless that guard, quote unquote, I'm calling it guard or maybe security, I don't know. It's really hard. I don't want to card box security people. They can rotate it. Like if they see it's getting full, they can take out some and put it in a secure place. And then that way there's more space for the next batch of envelopes to be put in. Also, it depends. If you have your cash registry up, you can see how many people have sent their gifts through that versus how many people have not given anything yet. So that means they're most likely those people, the number of those people, are most likely going to show up on the day of the wedding, either with cash or with a check. So that means they're going to put it in the card box. So that's the size of the card box that you want to get to make sure that it all fits and that you can secure it better after. And it's not, someone has 10 of those and the other auntie has 10 of those. Make sure it's in one place, secure that. Security, guarding is important. And, it's not just because I feel like people are going to steal it. Obviously, your guests. I mean, why would they steal something? Like, I understand. But you have to understand, too, that there are staff walking around. And depending on your venue, there might be multiple events happening at the same time. And people are just going to be walking in and out. And that's why you want to make sure that there is some type of security or guarding around that area for where the card box will be. That's just very, very important. And I think that's it for me, lovely. Those are my points. Obviously, sometimes I have a lot of points because I want to make sure that you don't miss anything, any small details. And if I miss something, comment below, send us an email, let us know. I'd love to go over that again with you. And as always, we're here to inspire you to celebrate life and love. Don't forget to download your free wedding planning kit linked in the description below before you go. Until next time, lovelies. Bye.